What's going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to Grayson Media Inc. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe across all platforms. Enjoy the show. Grayson out. Good evening. Hope all is well. Welcome to Grayson Politics Live. My name is Grayson, of course, and where we talk about facts, transparency, and accountability. Tonight, we're going to be honored to welcome Shavonne Hedgepeth, candidate for Congress in Maryland's 4th Congressional District. I'm going to speak it into existence. When successful, in the primary and in the general election, she will represent approximately 630,000 residents, and across Prince George's County and portions of Montgomery County. Tonight we'll discuss jobs, housing, immigration, a plethora of topics. So let me welcome Ms. Hedgepeth to the platform. Hold on real quick. And thank her. Where's my media assets? Welcome, Shavonne. How are you? Wait, can we hear her?
Nope, that was me. That was the millennial error.
Okay.
I had my mic muted. Yeah. It's bringing back the trauma of Teams meetings, right? When you're still muted.
Yes.
No, I'm great. It's a great Monday. The team dropped some yard signs today, so that's exciting. And just prepping for the week.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm great. Every day that I try to be very humble, live by my grandmother's motto: every day that you wake up is a good day. So
Absolutely.
that's how I try to live life. I'm sure you're busy, so thank you for making time throughout your busy campaign and life. So I appreciate it. So I'm going to give you the floor. Please introduce yourself to the audience and to the viewers of Grayson Politics Live and your future constituency. And tell us about Shavonne Hedgepeth, and tell people who is Shavonne Hedgepeth and why are you running for Congress in MD dash 04.
Yeah, thank you so much. So a little bit about me. I was born in Tampa, Florida. I was raised in the Bay Area in California, Pinole. And then I went on a college tour. I was in this after school program in high school. And they paid us to do our homework. And they got us our first jobs. And so they took us on a tour of HBCUs. We don't have it in California. So we toured Alabama, A&M, the AUC, Southern A&M, Grambling, and Dillard. And I'd never been to an HBCU before. Like I was the first person in my family to go to college. And we went to Grambling, I think. No, it was Southern A&M. It was around homecoming. And they had a funeral procession for the other school's mascot. And my 16-year-old mind was blown because I graduated high school when I was 17. So I was a year younger than everyone. I don't know how my mother did it, but she did it. And I was like, oh, I have to go to an HBCU. So I was adamant about going to an HBCU. So I went to community college for a year so I could figure out where. And then I moved to Atlanta. And I was there for 10 years. I started at Clark Atlanta. So I was in the club with my business casual on, my pencil skirts and my cardigan. So I've been a cardigan girl for over 20 years now. I even have elementary school pictures of me wearing cardigans. So it's in me.
Likewise.
But
Go ahead.
And I didn't finish at Clark, so I kind of needed to understand like who I was. I was very far away from my family. It was just me in Atlanta. and I had a wild time at Clark. I actually got kicked out for poor academic performance at one point, but I'm very relentless. So I actually petitioned the Dean of Undergraduate Studies to let me back in. I had support from some of my professors. They were like, she's not really challenged here. So they put me in grad classes,
Nice.
which was really helpful. And I still talk to those professors to this day. And but I still wasn't really like vibing out. So I kind of went to go work in food service. So I worked at Raw Sushi. I opened Raw Sushi, and then I opened Lowe's Atlanta Hotel as a lounge server. I actually applied to be a hostess, but he thought I would do better in the lounge, and he was correct. So I stayed there for about 6 years and some change, and then I was coming up on that 10-year mark. You know, I interned at the High Museum of Art. When I was younger, I used to want to be an archaeologist, and I wanted to be an archivist, and I wanted to be Michael Jackson's lawyer specifically. And so I interned at the Auburn Avenue Research Library, where I did a lot of archival work. And so I was like, oh, I'll go to DC. Like, that's where, you know, all the real big archives are, right? So my job transferred me to the hotel there, Lowe's Madison, which has been sold like twice since I moved here.
Mm.
And I they gave me a week and like 3 days to get here. So I found a room on Craigslist, and I moved in with the blow up mattress from like regulars from the hotel. There was a really great gay couple, and a So Kate heel and a J. Crew jacket and Olivia Pope dream. And I I loved it as soon as I got here. And I kind of bounced around after the hotel sold. They laid a lot of the old employees off. So I worked in strategic communications. My background is predominantly in an executive assistant. I was an executive assistant. So I was in strategic communications. I worked in legal recruiting. I worked in commercial real estate. And during the pandemic, um, I realized I needed something a little stable, and I wanted to align my life with something that brought me joy every day. And that led me to Metro, where I currently work in capital planning. And so at Metro, I went back to school. I got my bachelor's in history from UMBC. I earned my first master's in library and information sciences. Couldn't take the library and archivist side of me too much from UMD. And I just completed my master's in public administration from Cornell. And I've always had, you know, like this desire to be my full dynamic self. So I had an internship at Mobile Law Library to tease out that entertainment lawyer part called Justice Access. And then I was a fellow at the USDA. And I think what really led me to run for Congress overall was, so fun fact, I was unaffiliated for a very long time. And I always voted Democrat, but I was very disillusioned with the Al Gore election. That was like my pivotal election in my life. And it was kind of like, ebb and flow. But, living in Atlanta during the Obama years, my president black, my Lambo blue, we had a time. So, but I read this article. I think it was an undergrad. I can't remember. It all kind of blurs together because I did it back to back. And it was about how Woodrow Wilson's resegregation of the federal government stagnated Black wealth in the DMV region for generations. And so that took me down this rabbit hole of understanding what was DC like, prior to Woodrow Wilson, right? And you have these great bodies of work out there. And then I saw what Trump did as soon as he got in office. And we know that in the DMV region, the federal government has been a stabilizer for generations. And I saw it happening again. And what I also didn't see was the proactive protection of the people in our district, because about 1 in 4 or 1 in 5, my brain's a little tired right now, but about 25% of our residents are federal workers. So to see history repeating itself to that extent, and there not be any urgency until about September, October, while we were already under a government shutdown, and we're scheduling all of these, um, food drives to keep our residents solvent, it really clicked in me that this is not the route that we're going to go through, because policy has a very lasting effect, and it takes a very long time to undo. Right, we're still living through Reagan and Nixon, policy. Right, so it's like if we don't do anything about this now, where can we even realistically achieve Medicare for all? Where can we realistically achieve universal health care after spending years and years and years of rebuilding? So that's why I'm in this race.
Fun fact, I love that. First of all, fun fact, I don't know if you see this pin here, uh,
Mm-hmm.
but it says HTC, and I am a union card carrying member of hotel. I've been in the hotel industry for 17 years. So kudos to you in that. I always say some people in the hospitality industry should have a PhD at the end of their name because it is very you you work with a lot of personalities in that, and so yes.
Yeah.
Secondly, in my former I shouldn't say former life because we only live one, but in the former chapter of my life, I did live in a Riverdale area. So yes, so I am a little familiar with Prince George County and the area that you're
Mm-hmm.
for and stuff in the DMV area, and that area, majority of DC, Alexandria, I lived in as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
any you any in that DMV area right there, you have a lot of communities either work for the federal government or tied to the federal government
Mm-hmm.
sort of way. And whether it be military contractors, whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
this that 500,000, 300 to 500,000 layoff that impacted a lot, that really hurt. So carry on. My apologies, but yeah.
No, don't apologize. I think to your point, I'm gonna walk it back a little bit. You only have one life that you can remember. That's one. Two, I think outside of like the federal dependency, there are two things that I really love about Prince George's County. Um, One, the people here, it feels like a big family reunion. Like everyone takes care of everyone. I remember when I moved here, my previous employer or my previous managers at Lowe's Atlanta, they gave me like a gift card because as a lounge server, you're in this dress. Now our lounge dresses, we had like normal Kamali dresses, so you could wear them however you wanted to. So I always wore mine one sleeve and tied the other sleeve around my waist. Some other girl wore it as a halter, and it came below the knee. So I didn't have a lot of business casual clothes, and they all like put their money together and gave me like a gift card so I could go buy some clothes. And I walked across the street to PG Plaza Mall, and I was like, "Do you have an Aunt Taylor in here?" And she was like, "No, baby." I said, "Well, what about a J. Crew?" And she was like, "No, baby, what you looking for?" And so I was like, "I need some slacks and like button ups and things like that." So she took me around the Macy's and really took care of me. And that was like my first real introduction to Prince George's County. Is this lady, kind of being like, "Girl," and still walking with me around the store to like make sure that I was set for my first day at work. Um, and so that was like my first intro. Is like that warmth, that support, that family. And so to see them being, you know, uh, used as collateral, to see them being commodified essentially, as we're playing with this administration and the budget games, it's like, yuck. And then, second, I found out that one of my ancestors was actually sold from a plantation in Howard County. His name was Edward Dorsey, and he's actually, we're going through the process of getting him recognized as one of the slaves that Georgetown sold to say solvent. So it's like Black geographies are deeply personal to me, right? So he started here in Howard County. He was sold down to New Orleans. Then he settled in Boley, Oklahoma, and then we settled in California. And now here I am, about 200 years later, back in the state that bore him, right?
Well,
Running for
sir,
Congress. So it's like, there's such a richness in that. And when I first started the campaign, I realized that, I would be the youngest woman to hold this seat. I actually made a comment about it in December, not thinking anything about it, and it got like 36,000 likes. And then I would also be the third Black woman to represent Maryland in Congress. So you have these really monumental ups and downs of Black American history being exercised in this one tiny person, right? Like just me, right? But it's so it's such a it's such an honor to be able to fight for the people that theoretically I have family up here. Like I've been finding family along this journey. They're like, "Oh, you're a Dorsey? Yeah, me too." Or you're a Hedgepeth? Oh, yeah, me too. I'm just like, "Hey, guys, they vote for me." Like, so it's been a great time.
Good, good. Yeah, it's amazing. That's a full circle moment, first of all.
Hmm.
And everyone from when I lived down there is like family. You can just it just feels like home. And I'm based in New Jersey now, my home
Hmm.
state. But yeah, it was good times when I lived down there. So yes, so kudos to you on that. You said so we asked her campaign, Siobhan's campaign, for a mission statement. You said that you're not running because the party asked you to. I'm a independent, by the way, registered independent. So I tend to vote Democrat, but I had to, in this climate, I had to register as independent, and we'll talk on the back end about that.
Hmm.
But you said that you're not running because of the party asked you to, but you're running because the community needs someone who sees them. Explain that for me, and why now, and why this seat?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think when you think about the concept of the Democratic Party, we're told it's a big tent, all are welcome, but they actually obstruct challengers if they are not, ordained by them, right? And so that's why you see all these like third party organizations that pop up, Justice Democrats, DSA, to kind of be this other kind of like supporting infrastructure because, you know, campaigns need infrastructure. You need campaign managers, you need schedulers, you need senior advisors, you need policy writers, you need fundraisers, you need general counsel, you need comms, you need social media, you need a field director. There's so many elements that go into a campaign, and if you are challenging someone that's currently in a seat, you will not get any support from the Democratic Party, regardless of where you voted, regardless of who you donated to, right? Um, and so that was like the framing of that conversation because a lot of people don't realize how difficult a grassroots campaign is. Like we look at Obama and it's like after Obama, everyone's rolling their sleeves up, right? Everyone's trying to do, some type of um, mimicry of like how he was able to sustain that buy-in. Everyone's mimicking AOC. Everyone's, trying to align with DSA or, everyone's walking down the street doing videos like Zoran, right? But what people are missing across those three examples is that's who they were, right? Like that is who they were intrinsically as individuals, and it just translated really well into being a politician and or a public servant, whichever term you prefer. And so knowing that at the beginning it was like, oh, I can't work with you, I can't get involved in this race, there's a conflict in this race, we can't work with challengers against incumbents. If you make it out of the primaries, give us a call. That's not democracy, right? That's
Mhm.
not a big tent structure. Like you can't talk to elected officials. That stagnates democracy. That stagnates representation because then the pathway towards that seat is only ordained by people in their offices, by certain consultants and certain donors, right? So you have to really look at, are we fundamentally better under this particular representation? And the answer is we're not. And a little bit about Glenn Ivey. He's been in Prince George's politics for a very long time. His wife is in the county council. His son is in the House of Delegates. He ran for Congress 3 times. The first time he dropped out due to fundraising challenges. The second time he lost, and the third time he won with APAC money. So at that point, considering you have that scale or that tenure in politics, why did you have to deviate? Why did you have to go to this large lobbying group? And also, it's interesting to note that those 2022 primaries, That was the first time APAC ever got involved at that level in a primary election. And that was the largest race at the time that had the most outside money in this particular race. And so when you think about those dynamics, how can you accurately represent the people if you're not beholden to the people, right? How can you accurately reflect the needs of the district if you don't have to be in the district, right? So, when he ran in 2022, he said he was running on the lowering the cost of gas and groceries. And that's not something you could do in a 2-year term, right? That's not something you could do in the House, but it sounds good. And so I believe that voters are much more intelligent than we've been communicating around them. I believe that they know that we can't achieve that in 2 years, but they're hopeful that we can. And because we run on these big, grand ideas, their trust in us falters because we can't deliver it. And seeing that we have a healthcare desert, seeing that we have food insecurity, seeing that we're having development challenges, seeing that we lost the FBI headquarters, we lost Six Flags, we're losing the commanders, you know, how are we actually better under this representation? So knowing that I think I'm a smart cookie, right? And knowing that I'm in the community, I'm putting miles on my car, driving up and down the district so I can understand the nuances of the different parts of the district and putting that into my platform so that I'm as reflective of the needs of the community. I think that's what we need in a climate like this. We've let too much fall to the wayside under the guise of really shiny, big, advantageous ideas. It's time to get grounded and rooted in what we actually need.
Sacrifices, sacrifices. I always say that public service is a sacrifice, and you doing that definitely is a true personification of that. And so, kudos to you on that.
Because, babe, I'm tired. I'm tired. I work from 8 to 4 every day.
Mm-hmm.
And then at 4:01, like, I'm
It's
like locked into the campaign, doing questionnaires, building out policy. My team helps me get to, like, information out throughout the day. But yeah, I be tired. I be tired. But
like
it's all for the people. Yeah.
no, 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 no. I understand what it was like to have a 9 to 5, and then
Mm-hmm.
and then do something. This is not extracurricular for you. This is serving the people of
Mm-hmm.
Prince George's County. So I definitely value. That's one of the reasons why I reached out. So kudos to you on that. What's miss? Well, you already answered that question, but uh, why are you so let's skip that because you answered most of my
I'm
next question.
sorry.
No, which is great. No, that's perfect. um you speak about economic justice. What does that mean particularly? And housing costs are hurting families.
Mhm.
What federal action is needed?
Great question. I think so. I'll take the first part. When I think about economic injustice, it's obviously that we haven't raised the minimum wage, right? We haven't really stabilized what I don't want to say contentment looks like, but we haven't stabilized the welfare of our people in a very long time. Like the working class has continued to dwindle. That is more of like a wish list item than it is actually a function of society anymore. And I remember when I used to be able to fly to Greece for like 250. You know what I mean? Like I had time. So it's like, but now we don't have the outputs that people where they can go to work and then find some type of joy that they define. And people are just trying to survive. So you have like people heckling you about not voting or how you voted or whatever, right? And you're just trying to make it through the week, right? You're trying to, make your paycheck last a little longer. And as that's happening, you know, the wealthier are getting wealthier, right? Like a teacher pays more in taxes than a billionaire does, right? Tim Cook gave what, like, was it 20 million or 20 billion to Trump to help him restore or modify tear down, destroy, the white portions of the White House. So it's like there's this chasm of what comfort looks like, and it's growing further and further apart. And because we have such fragmented ideologies within the House and the Senate, we can't little settle in on something that's actually tangible. And I think housing affordability should be better marketed as housing stability,
Mm.
because affordability is subjective, right? What's affordable to me may not be affordable to my coworker, right? So it's like we have to really define, or we have to really be a little more agile in how we're approaching affordability. And specifically in Maryland and District 4, we are extremely transit rich. And we have a lot of undeveloped land out here. We have lots of metro stations. We have lots of MARC, Amtrak. There are ample opportunities to turn those unused parcels of land with transit or with federal dollars to support county visions. We can develop those into actual apartments with third spaces. Like, for example, in District Heights, I think I'm going to say last week or the week before last, there was a parcel of land that was sold alongside an Aldi grocery store. It's about 1.2 acres. And with federal money, they could have developed that into like a farmers market corridor, a small business corridor. They could have put a federally funded clinic there. They could, there's so many ways to get creative. We have like the whole Maryland Urban Planning Association. Like there are so many avenues so we can get really creative around some of our original design challenges. Like you remember there are a lot of strip malls out here, right? And that's a flaw of like 60s and 70s design. So it's like getting really creative around what we could do with federal dollars, because people sometimes forget, like there's a lot of formula money out there, right? There's a lot. And the stronger and tighter your vision is, the stronger and tighter your development will be. And so you can add in benchmarks into the money that you receive federally to include affordability matrix, displacement protection, right? Because when you're talking about housing, you also have to remember that there are people here that have been disinvested in, and we have to protect them as we're being, innovative in that space. And you can do that with federal dollars. And in terms of economic stability, for District 4 specifically, we would have to get rid of continuing resolutions. It's an antiquated way to play around with people's livelihoods, because you couldn't get this policy and you couldn't get the buy-in that you needed to pass this bill. So you're going to shoehorn it into the budget, and if you don't get it, you're going to shut down the government, right? And that's from Reagan, right? So it's like we have to start looking at the processes that exist and where they're stagnating our ability to keep people whole. And community project funding is one of my favorite tools of a member of the House. Um, that's where you can bring in real targeted change and development to the region. And there are a lot of federal agencies here. We have NASA Goddard, we have BARC, and making sure that those workers are being protected as well. And part of the district kind of hits on an army base, right, or excuse me, an Air Force base. So it's like there are ample opportunities to provide stability for individuals here. We just have to marry the federal dollars with the county vision. And I'm going to build the baseline on that is, I don't know if you've seen Trump's fiscal year 27 proposed budget, but it's diabolical. Like it eliminates community project funding. It cuts education programs by 2/3, $6.5 billion. Further cuts to Medicaid, further cuts to SNAP. Obviously, the budget challenges we experienced last year led to those shutdowns, right? The ACA tax credits, which should have been codified a long time ago. Okay. So, when you look at the opportunities ahead of you, you have to hold space for what we have to restore and what we're going to have to fight for and build out the strategy to expand.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, especially in terms of well, this administration overall. You have Linda McMahon, the wrestling lady, inside of so
Let me fix my face. Yeah.
yeah, so in charge of education. And
But I want to, I'm sorry, one second.
go
I want to take it a step further, right?
ahead.
So, as a historian, my biggest pet peeve is we ignore that all of this is the writing's been on the wall for a very long time, right? Whenever there is any incremental progression in this country, there's a massive backlash, right? From the whatever the conservative ideology is at the time. So we had the Reconstruction, and then it went diabolical. We had Black Codes, Jim Crow South, right? And I'm going to skip a lot. Then I'm going to go to Woodrow Wilson. The Black American people in Washington at this time, they were exporting dignitaries. They were owning blocks of row houses, blocks of businesses. You know, they were having debutante balls like it was nobody's business. The Library of Congress was predominantly propped up by Black people, right? So what does Woodrow Wilson do? Cuss all that shit at the knee. You know what I mean? So then you go a little further, we have Obama. The very day of his inauguration, what was the Tea Party, right? And what is the Tea Party involved to? MAGA, right? So when we talk about where we are as a country, we do ourselves a disservice as if we have not allowed it to come to fruition on our own terms, right? Same thing with like ICE. We've allowed police brutality to run unchecked for decades, right? So that state sanctioned violence against Black and Brown people has escalated to ICE's actions. So when we talk about where we are as a country, it's our backyard has been burning for a very long time. And we've been throwing a little bit of water on it. We may have sprayed a fire hose on it, but we've never actually addressed it. Like we've never really reconciled with it. And I remember when Trump ran the first time I was at work, and my boss, he was a really great guy, he was very patient with me. I remember my first week at work, he wanted me to give him this really important Excel spreadsheet. And I only printed out one tab. And I didn't know no better. And so, but he's like, yeah, I don't think Trump's going to win. I was like, oh, he's definitely winning. I told him that day, I was like, that man is absolutely winning because he is saying the things that people could not have been saying at their kitchen table that they have not been able to say for 40 years, right? He's giving people the opportunity to bring what's been hidden in those closets and in those trunks to the front line. So we have to start being honest about how we got here and how we've allowed it to run unchecked. And I'm not saying we as a me and you, but I'm saying like as a country, you know, we've never really reconciled with the Tea Party and the backlash to Obama. We never really reconciled with the American Enterprise Institution or institute that's been building the infrastructure to get to this point since 1938. We never reconciled with Project 2025 when we got that shit in 2023. It was cute to talk about at the BET Awards, but we didn't do anything beyond that. So, you know, the onus is on our inability to have these comprehensive historical conversations around how we've allowed this to happen.
I have a question. We have a question here.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm gonna show it. It
How
says,
would you balance the necessary foreign aid with the need for infrastructure? There's enough money. We're spending about $23 billion on this war. There's enough money. They're proposing $1.5 trillion that projected to spend on this war. I think because I believe budgets are a moral document, we have to be very transparent. Um, he's getting people to bring their kitchen. Absolutely, yeah. So it's we have enough money, right? Like we have the mechanisms to balance our obligations and our support to countries that we've broken, right? To countries and democracies that we've dismantled. We have the money to do that, and we have the money to take care of home. And one of the main ways we can do that is by taxing in billionaires, right? So it's we just have to be louder and bolder about making sure that they open their wallets the same way that we have to open our wallets, right? So we have enough money. If we have people loud enough and we're bringing people, we calling people to the floor to make sure that we're embarrassing them because people don't get embarrassed enough anymore. You need to be called to task for this shitty ass vote you just cast. You know what I mean? So we have to start being bolder and shaming people and not like an acute thread post, but put it on record. You know, like Nidhi said, leave it on the playground or don't bring it to the table. Right. So we have to start being a lot more loud. Right. We have to start being a little more deviant and diabolical and calling people out on their bullshit and their double speak and what their harm is really going to look like if they keep moving the way that they're moving. But we got the money because Tim Cook got it. He gave it to Trump. You know what I mean? Like Elon Musk got it. So they have the money. We just have to hold them accountable for it. And that's something that we can do. That's a house power, baby. That's not Senate. You know what I mean? So that's the house. That sits in the house.
And I'm well, you can't see it because my green screen here, but yeah, because I'm on a MacBook now. I have an iPhone, and
Mhm.
you're giving money to destroy the White House. It doesn't make it make sense.
Yeah,
So
we don't shame people enough anymore. You remember
mhm.
in Game of Thrones? Maybe this may be a sensitive topic for people, but they had her walking down the street, shame people, call them out on it, right? You had enough trolls on the internet. You feel me? Take it to their front porch.
um Amazon mom, give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna play something. I see you have a question. So, but she's running in Maryland, but it's not New York related. But give me 1 second. I'm gonna play something, and then I want you to follow up on the back end, Shavonne, if you don't
Mm,
mind.
no,
Hold on.
not at all.
Okay. Let's see. Add stage.
To write that check. And I would really hope with all that America's done for all of you, it shouldn't bother you. If we send in a check like we did last year, we sent in over $5 billion to the U.S. federal government. And if 800 other companies had done the same thing, no other person in the United States would have had to pay a dime of federal taxes, whether income taxes, no Social Security taxes, no estate taxes, no. It doesn't bother me in the least to write that check. And I would really hope with all that America's done for all of you, it shouldn't bother you that we do it.
What's your thoughts on that? One of the richest men
He ain't told a
in
lie. He ain't told one lie. But the thing is, like he can do that, but if you can't galvanize people with the same pocketbook as you, then it's low key symbolic, right? If you can't, and there is a coalition of millionaires out there that theoretically, advocate for tax reform and paying them. I can't think of their name right now, um, but they do have it. They've endorsed candidates in the race to kind of help close the gap that grab. But yeah, no, I mean, it's a my thing is it's obtainable, right? But we just don't have enough ideological alignment in the house to make shit shake. So at that point, it becomes like foundational knowledge, foundational buy-in and support for an idea that needs to be executed.
got it.
But you're right.
Uh, Here, Grayson Politics Live, we like for our audience to interact. So we have Amazon Mom again asking you another question.
Yeah.
On the show for you.
I think that I view Zoran Mamdani. I don't know if this is like a real term or not, but I view him as a pragmatic progressive. I believe that he understands where the limitations are and where he can move forward with them. And I think because Maryland has food deserts, I think it's extremely relevant to target the use of federal funds. Um, I mean, I think what he's doing in New York is well needed, right? And they're all like, if you really think about it, they're all very small asks. They're not very large, grand ideas, right? Like you're putting in, rodent repellent trash cans. You know what I mean? Like that's not this grand policy idea. It's something that's practical and has massive benefits in the long term. And so I think most of the things that Zoran is doing, they're rooted in maximizing the impact for the people. Yes, Pennsylvania, Southeast. Yeah, that is absolutely a food desert. There are. I live off of. Help me, I know it. I live up by the northeast side because I take 50 down when I used to go to the games. I love basketball. Um,
I see.
and
Based off your Instagram. Go ahead.
and so I take what is that street babe? By the Costco. So I'm over there by that Costco where you can buy alcohol. I'm by that. Yeah. Yeah, of course I knew. Yeah, like I'll be outside. Like don't let the cardigans and the jewelry and the bronzer fool you. I'll be outside. My friend used to live over there in those apartments. We had a great view from the of the Capitol from her apartment. It was like really sad when she moved. She moved to over there by Trinidad, over there by Gallaudet. Um, I love the DMV. I love DC. I love Maryland. Like I love the people here. Like you see how Amazon mom, she's like, well, hold on, baby, let's talk about this. Like they're like family, right? They're like you go to your family reunion and you got a new cousin, right? Like that's how I view the people in the DMV. But I think what Zoran is doing is redefining what it means to be a politician, right? I think he's redefining the definition of power in the scope of his duties. Oh, thank you. I think that's what he's doing. And I did borrow some of his tips, right? So at work, we're gonna talk about my job, right? Um, so I work in capital planning, and what that means is I'm on a team of people who evaluate investments and strategies. Where it's a very large group. It's not just me, but we evaluate strategies for the agency, and we'll get requests like we have to replace our buses on this schedule, or we want to electrify everything. Do we have the infrastructure? Do we have, the capacity to actually do this work? We want to do solar panels. Where's the best place? We do the studies. We do the, so that's the intersection I sit at on the budget, which is why I think budgets are a moral document, because when we're building the budget, we look at a lot of inputs, and we look at what's the riders, what's the geographic, what's the median salary over there? Do they have access to food? We Metro rolled out a program where you could ride for free. So some of the people at the board hearings were like, this was amazing because I live in a food desert. And I was able to ride the bus to go to these 2 grocery stores, to get food and come back home, because before I couldn't really, afford to go to multiple stops, right? But now I can. So it's like making sure that our service delivery aligns with the needs of the community. And I think that's what Congress is supposed to do. Policy is supposed to be written by the people. So if the people are telling you they don't want to give any more money to Israel, you can't get any more money to Israel. If the people are telling you that they want universal health care, you got to find out a way to give them universal health care, right? So it's like we're not functioning in that space because the donor class has been so prolific in controlling the narrative of what happens. Like when the TSA workers weren't getting paid, and Delta said, all right, Congress, you don't have special privileges anymore. And then what happened? They got that money. You know what I mean? So it's like when you start functioning at that space, that's not democracy, right? I mean, we always know we've been oligarchy, but that's pushing it past the limit. So, I think, but the basketball. So I didn't like basketball. I used to think that sports was like modernized slavery. I thought that we were commodifying Black bodies for profit. And then I took off my HBCU hat, and I realized like this is what brings these people joy, right? This is their choice. These are the choices, right? And they're all exceptionally good at it. So I started watching basketball a couple of years ago, and I bought courtside seats just to see what it was like. What's all the hype about? And I intended on selling them, and I wound up going to every game, and I was like, oh no, this is fun. Like, it was absolutely horrible. They were selling their blood to be able to afford their rent. They were sleeping in cars, right? And, travel is supposed to be a public good. And I wrote this paper a long time ago for a scholarship application about massive transition in air travel. Is it no longer being a public good? Because they are supposed to be a public good, right? They get a lot of federal money. When they failed, allegedly, we were told the reason that they had to get this massive influx of federal cash was because they were a public good. They were public infrastructure, but there's no benefits being passed down to the people. So therefore, it's not public good. It's not public infrastructure. It serves the private needs of the wealthy. And I could talk ad nauseum about that stuff, but I think we just have to start being honest and being our most authentic selves, and not trying to mimic other politicians because it comes across as fake. Like people can see through it. We see enough manufactured personalities on TV today, so it was really important to me to keep that basketball. I can't shoot it, but I can really watch it. And I did play basketball in high school, but that doesn't really count. So, and as a cheerleader, but I want people to trust us again. I want people to see the full scope of who we are, and not live in these binary spaces. Like the other day, someone said, "Oh, I didn't know you were progressive," and I was like, "Well, why not? Is it the cardigans? Is it? Why wouldn't I be progressive? So it's like we have to strip ourselves of thinking that people are packaged in particular ways. That means they stand for something that someone who may not be packaged in the way that we've been marketed. That they still have the same values."
I wholeheartedly. No, go continue. Go ahead.
No, I was like, I'm a yapper. I'm sorry. When I get tired,
No,
I just
no,
run in my mouth.
you good. You are good. I been a basketball fan since I was little. I'm a diehard
Lakers
Lakers
fan.
fan.
I know. We don't gotta talk about it. We don't gotta talk
We're
about
talking on the back end, but
it.
yes, the way it's structured, trading someone and this, that, and the other. I looked into that, and it goes back to like,
It
oh
gives option block. It gives
yeah,
option block, right? Especially when you see. I mean, football is the same way. I can't watch football because I can't see the ball on the court. I don't care how many X's and O's and lines you draw for me. I don't know what the hell is going on in that field. I like going to live games, but I can't see it, and I just have really bad eyesight.
I'm the same with golf.
Okay.
I can't
Nope, can't see it.
see the
That
ball.
ball,
If
that
I can't see it, I can't relate. I all well, I'm not even gonna say all the best to Tiger because he doesn't even relate to black people, but that's another conversation for another time. But um if I can't see it, then yeah, it's not relating to me. So, but go ahead, continue. I'm sorry.
no, don't apologize. It's like interesting because my grandmother, she was like my first best friend. She was the spiciest little lady you would ever meet in your life. She taught me to be utterly relentless in anything that I desired, and I remember, um, and I agree. Like it's our job, right, to explain to people what the trade offs are, what the risks are, where they need to be informed. That's our job, right? But my grandmother, she went to FAMU. She was a Rattler, and she was a Zeta. And when she was younger, she had my father really young, and she was a nurse, and so she went to the dean's office, and she didn't have enough money for the program, and she needed to complete her degree. And the dean was like, "Well, Lucille, you can't get on that bus. You ain't got no money." And my grandma said, "I'm getting on that bus," and she ran out that office and got on that bus, and her last name was Walker, so she was the last lady on the bus, and so she just knew they were going to tell her to go back, and they called her name. She completed the program. She went back to the dean's office and said, "Who do I have to get? Who do I have to pay back?" And the dean said, "I don't know what you're talking about." So my grandmother told me, "You will get 1,000 no's until you get to that one yes." So she was like, "Never stop." She was like, "You're gonna get a lot of no's." She was like, "That's just life." She was like, "But you don't stop." And she loved sports because my grandfather played for the Raiders. Carlton Oates. My grandfather played for the Raiders, and I think the Packers. I don't know. So she loved. She had her jackets. Super Bowl Sunday was like a feast in the house. It was gumbo. It was all the things. She loved sports, and I was just like, "Grandma, this is so boring. Can we go watch a Disney movie?" Like I did not want to have no parts of it. And so, you know, um, now that I love sports and she's no longer here, I feel like it's her kind of like tapping my shoulder, like, "Finally, child, you got it together." So that was my best friend. She's the tiniest little lady in the whole wide world.
Uh, Amazon mom, she's really. Is she saying here?
You have to build a door.
Yep.
Like there was a queen from West Africa, Queen Nzinga, and she went to go meet with some colonizers. and she went in the room and they didn't have a chair for her. And so she had, one of her attendants sit down on their hands and knees to be her chair, right? So it's like our opportunities are only as impactful as we create them. So yeah, I got a lot of no's along this way, but this was a yes, right? I've gotten yeses, so I think we have to be mindful that we'll get a yes always.
Yes, we can. Yes, I agree. Student loan debt um, continues to burden many. What reforms do you support? And what would you do for small businesses in Prince George? It's a two-part question. What would you do for small businesses in Prince George's County?
Yeah. So one, I actually wrote a paper at Cornell on this. I'm sure you know I love Beyonce as well. So uh, I wrote a paper and I titled it "American Requiem: The End, Student Loan Debt Forgiveness and the End of Upward Mobility." And so when you think about student loan debt, like the concept of college and the Higher Education Act, 1964. College was low key free before the Civil Rights Act, right? So whenever we say that everything good that this country had was destroyed to keep Black people out of it, education is one of them, right? So obviously, we know the Department of Education is a shit show, and it's going to be a massive overhaul to rebuild. And I am a pragmatist at heart, so obviously I can't go in there asking for federal Pell Grant expansions and massive student loan debt forgiveness. Um, but I do know that the modifications to the federal repayment uh, structure is like really, I don't want to say shitty, but we
No,
would
so
have to we would have to address that first. Like we would have to restore easier pathways to repayment as we build the coalitions to begin really chipping away at student loan debt. And the argument for me is, well, there's two prongs. The argument for me, one is this Congress, I feel like I've said this like 1,000 times, so forgive me, but this Congress, we've had record retirements, right? So this is the second time in history we've had this many retirements. I think it's like 35 Democrats and maybe like 40 something Republicans. It's insane. And the last time we had,
retiring too, right?
I'm sorry.
I believe Pelosi, she's retiring soon, right? I believe, if
Yep.
I'm mistaken.
Yeah. So it's like we have a very unique opportunity
Mhm.
to bring in that real ideological change, right? This is not the time to say, oh, well, I trust him because he's been there for a long time. It's like, and look what happened when he was there for a long time. Baby, you lost your health care. You lost your Medicaid. Like, so is that what you want? You want to lose more of it, or you want to bring in people who can build a coalition to capitalize off of this like potential progressive wave? Right, we're 3 seats away from the House majority. 3.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So when you start talking about being able to achieve change in a strategic way, then it's like you can facilitate more buy-in because you're explaining to people, we need 3 seats. So find somebody that's running in a red seat, turn that shit blue, and then you'll be good. You know what I mean? So it's like we have to start being more eagle-eye strategic in how we can really move things forward. But because of the state of the federal government, there's going to be a lot of restoration, right? There's going to be a restoration period. Like this is going to be studied in the history books. If we can get a lot of progressive voices in there, this would be a full restoration. But you would obviously have to expand the Pell Grant, and we would also have to hold for-profit colleges accountable, right? We know that there's scams, right? I can say that. I also have a shit ton of student loan debt. Like my dad graciously, when I was at Clark Atlanta, thanks Dad, he has the bulk of it, right? But I have all my debt from UMBC, UMD, and Cornell. But I think we would have to there would have to be massive oversight vehicles that really, because right now you have to do student loan exit counseling, but I just clicked through that shit. Like we all just clicking through it. You know what I mean? Like the same thing we clicked through them terms and conditions. Like okay, Instagram, you update your terms and conditions, and we just signed our life away, right? I think we need to have a much more comprehensive reform in our relationship around um, public schools that receive federal funding, and secondary to that, the land grant institutions, especially the Black ones, they need their money. They need their money. They have not been paid fairly since inception, right? And those are a lot of HBCUs that carry a heavy lift when it comes to working class students. And then what I would do for small businesses in Prince George's County, I think outside of DC, in this area, we have the most small Black businesses. Um, and those businesses, I've been talking to them. I've been going around like, don't you want to put my window sign up and show people you want to vote for, you know? And a lot of the ones that I've spoken to, their sales have dropped by 50% since October, because there's this direct relationship between the federal workforce and our small businesses. And a lot of people aren't going to spend their discretionary income at the barbershop. They're going to try and line it up. As I know, during the pandemic, I made a wig, you know, like I was doing the best I could with what I had, right? Because they cut our pay by 40%. That was their alternative to not laying off their staff, right? So people are getting really creative. They're eating out less. They're buying less luxury items. And so small businesses need direct access to federal funds to kind of help keep them solvent. And one of the arms and functions of the congressional office is you have a technical, you know, you have technical people who can help scope projects, define them for, or at least mine will, and define them for viability. So leveraging that full scope of that arm of the office. And for example, I just sent it to my friend because she does vertical dramas. I love a vertical drama. And one of the government agencies they're paying about $700,000 in production for vertical dramas, for media production, right? So tying those grant opportunities to the businesses in the district, but you only know the needs of the district when you're in the district. So a couple of weeks ago, a pipe burst in Bowie. I've known about that pipe for about 5-6 years. And not once has any community project funding been allocated to repair that specific infrastructure project. And so residents have to drink brown water, right? So it's like when you're not in the district, you don't know how to build in what small businesses are we going to try and bring into this massive infrastructure project, right? Like if you don't know how to write the criteria up front to make sure that they have the ability to apply for that grant to keep them solvent, then you're doing yourself a disservice. So using the full strength of my office to make sure that our small businesses can compete for federal dollars, so they can have solvency, so they can have the ability to expand and franchise if they want to, right? Like that's what Congress is supposed to do. Well, that's what a representative in Congress is supposed to do. They're supposed to enhance the community that they're running in. I feel like the chat's going. I arrived late to the live. What made you want to serve in for not your hometown? I don't think you're from Maryland. No, I'm not from Maryland. I've been here for 10 years. I want to serve for the people of Maryland. How can I put this in a succinct way? Because how do we bring words? Because they feel like family, right? When I moved here, the first interaction I had with like a Marylander, I remember, I think she's from Suitland, and she treated me like I was her niece. Like she was like, "Oh, baby, come here." You know, she put her little, you know, she held my hand, said, "Oh, baby, come here, let me talk to you." And that kind of warmth when you're away from family. And I had been away from family since I was 18, right? So I'd never lived around family since I left California. So the fact that my very first interaction was that level of warmth and support and care and compassion, that made me say, okay, I'm gonna be here, right? And then over the years, as I wanted to understand who I was, what brought me joy. And one of the things I realized is I've always donated. I've always did community service. I've always volunteered in elementary school. I unfortunately they kept the special needs kids separate from us. I would spend my recess with them. Let's play Oregon Trail. Let me read you a book. You know what I mean? And when I got Oregon Trail was a time, baby. So it's like, I always, where I'm happy is when I'm serving other people and I'm giving back to other people. Every year by myself, I would go to the Nutcracker and I would go to Jose Feed the Hungry, right? Anytime my job, anywhere, it was, they had any type of event, I was in the DC Central Kitchen or I was at Jose, Feed the Homeless. Like wherever I could support someone, I did that. my friend, she did a project in Honduras, and I just be doing shit. My friend had a project in Honduras, and she's like, "Oh, we need school supplies." So I went down to HR at Lowe's and was like, "We need school supplies for kids in Honduras." So we got backpacks and we got jackets and we got school supplies, and I wound up getting my company Lowe's. Thank you. They paid for it to get shipped there. I read an article one night about how the public school food was really bad. And so I went to our chef, Olivier Goupon from France. And I was like, "Olivier, I read this article. Can I feed some kids? Will you help me?" He's like, "Sure, whatever." So I called around to all these schools in Atlanta and I was like, "Hey, can I feed your kids?" And they were like, "Who the hell are you?" I was like, "Oh, I'm just a girl. I work in a lounge and I read some article." And so I wound up getting an administrator at Maynard Jackson. And I was like, "We want to feed your kids." And she was like, "Who are you and why should I help you?" I was like, "Well, because I want to help you." And she's like, "Okay, you ate that." And so I went back to, Lowe's corporate, and they provided all the food, they provided all the labor. They let Olivier come in and they let staff come work it. And we fed 400 kids and we taught them the benefits of healthy eating. So during the pandemic, I did a lot of intrinsic searching of who I was, what brought me joy, what's been a constant through point in my life across California, Georgia, and Maryland. And it was always service, always. So knowing that Maryland was the place that I was able to actualize that, exercise that, and I saw the opportunity to fight for the people who showed me care and compassion when I first got here, right? So that's why I chose Maryland, and I haven't been in California since I was 18. Like I have not lived at home since 2005.
Oh.
So that's why I chose Maryland, because the people here were extremely kind to me, and this was the state that I found myself. And then one of my ancestors was sold from Maryland. So theoretically, I really would have been from here if it wasn't for slavery. But I think that those are the things that drive me. The people here, how warm and caring they are, and how brilliant they are, and resilient they are, and just me being able to define who I am in Maryland, right? So when I'm driving down the street and I got to dodge them potholes, I got a Fiat, I got 2012 Fiat. She can't take too much. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, why can't we do better? If we're the wealthiest Black congressional district in America, why can't we be better, right? Why can't we demand more? And why can't we be the contributing factor to that more? So, yeah, that's why Maryland.
I'm gonna play something real quick. It's ice related, and then I would like for you to comment on the back end. Oh, one moment. No, he's. So I'm a one-man band. I don't have a producer, so hold on a second. This is in Montgomery County. He's right here.
Oh, don't touch my fucking car. Back up. Don't touch my car.
Don't cuss. But you're not gonna do
nothing. I want. Don't touch my car.
No, you don't do what you fuck you want.
Sir, I'm a citizen. I don't care. Don't touch my car.
This ain't your car. That's her car or his car.
I'm trying to ask if he needs assistance.
Why can't she say
I don't care
something?
what you ask. Don't
But why
touch my
can't?
car.
So what's your
Okay,
badge
the window was
number?
down and
What
you
is your
put it up.
badge number?
Señor, necesita ayuda. ¿Cuál es su nombre?
Just allow him to say something. Come on, man. Just use a
¿Cuál
little.
es su nombre?
Move.
Señor, ¿cuál es su nombre?
Don't touch her.
¿Cuál es
I
su
want-
nombre?
Move. I will lock your ass up.
No, you won't. No, you
Yeah,
won't. No, you
you
won't.
You just
No,
put
you
your
won't.
hands
For
on me.
what? You. So, you said about abolishing ICE is a necessity, but one branch of the larger broken system. Explain that, and then what's your take on
Comment on the video.
yes?
The first part is immigration reform hasn't been updated since 1986, right? That's when I was born. Respectfully, I am almost 40. I'll be 40 this year. So
What year?
immigration,
Sorry,
huh?
you said the year. What? When were you?
I was born in 1986.
Oh, I'm 86 as well. December 20th.
Okay, yeah. I'm just very, very whimsical.
Oh,
I'm very whimsical. But when's your birthday?
December 24th.
Oh, one of my best friend's birthdays is around there. She's a Capricorn too.
Mhm.
I'm a Libra. I'm a loquacious Libra. I talk a lot. But when you think about a system that hasn't been updated in almost 40 years, there are going to be outputs that don't represent the society that it's governing within. And those outputs transition from governance to fascism. And that's kind of where we are. We're at that intersection of not allowing policy to keep up with society's progression. So that's one angle of it. And the gag is we did have bipartisan support in 2024. In fact, the Republican co-sponsors like, yo, we got past this shit, big boy. And we didn't because Trump wanted to use it as political leverage, right? So when you have a system that's that outdated, there are going to be outputs of disorganization and violence because you haven't been able to pressure test where we're falling short, because we haven't had this level of ICE oversight since its inception, right? Enforcement has always been a part of American society. This is not the only time we've ever enforced against immigration. So in order to really have a discussion about abolishing ICE, we have to reform the courts and make sure that the infrastructure is there so that when people are coming here seeking a better life, we're actually giving them feasible pathways to do that. And then you won't have to worry about, ICE running rampant in the streets. Now about the video, how can I say this? I don't know what led to the conversation. I don't know if that's her vehicle or if that's his vehicle. But I think in those instances, your adrenaline kicks in. And so from different sides, his adrenaline is kicking in from an ego and authoritarian side, and her adrenaline is kicking in from a protection and advocacy and accountability side, right? So you have these very competing ideas, and that's leading to the friction of the interaction. Now, I don't think ICE people should be wearing masks. It reminds me of The Watchmen. Remember that show on HBO where the police wore masks because of like this massive violent backlash against police officers? And it's like, if you really think you're doing right, then you should be able to show your face, right? It should be no shame in your game. Because, it reminds me of trolls. Like when you have people trolling you online, they have like anime pictures or cartoons or GIFs or something like that because then they're their own demon time. You know what I mean? Not the good kind of demon time. But so it's, but the thing is, I think I said it earlier, is like, we've allowed this, right? We allowed it with Rodney King. We've allowed it with George Floyd. We've allowed it with Alton Sterling. We've allowed it with Sandra Bland. We've allowed it with Tamir Rice. Like, we've allowed that to run unchecked. Philando Castillo, right? We've allowed this concept of power before process to harm countless lives. And now it's ballooned from the state level to the federal level. So it's kind of like when, the bully's picking on someone at school and everybody's scared of the bully, so they don't call the bully out. And now the administration doesn't have to hold the bully accountable because no one's going to speak up against the bully that's running the yard. And that's the situation that we're in now. We've allowed the bully, which are the police, to run unchecked in Black and brown communities, in minority communities specifically, but predominantly Black communities. And now we're seeing it on this grand scale of, ICE. So abolishing ICE is a necessity because enforcement should not be the only way that we manage new Americans or interact with new Americans. The main goal should be reforming the Immigration Act. And what I could do in the House is I could submit, because it's fallen off the radar. People got too much shit that they focusing on, they forgot about it. But what we could do is introduce companion legislation in the House to remind people, put it back in the zeitgeist. Like, did you forget about this? Because, as we see over time, earlier in, I think it was like 2019, maybe like, I'm making the numbers up, but I made a post about it on Threads and I can't remember the specifics. Like in 2019, we had like 19 Dems who didn't want to send money to Israel, right? And then in 2022, we had like 27 Dems who didn't want to send money to Israel. Now today we have like about 43 or 44, right? So the trend of people deviating from what we've considered business as usual is changing. So I do think that there is a possibility with the new House, right, to bring in legislation to reform the Immigration Act, because we already had that support. right? The Senate hasn't changed that much since that bill was introduced. So we have to be cognizant of where we were, where we've fallen short, and what we need to do to bring it across the line. Because it's past time that we reformed it. It's past time that we built in, safer pathways to citizenship. It's about time. Like it's a lazy talking point. A lot of people do it, Democrats and Republicans. They take these sound bites and run with them to try and galvanize voters. We did it with the Voting Rights Act, right? Let's codify it. And then Shelby County said, nah, we're going to snatch it because you wasted too much time, right? Roe v. Wade, 1973, we had the trifecta at least once or twice over that period. We've had majorities in the House and the Senate at a minimum of 3 times since then. And now it's gutted, right? Or it's completely up to the states to manage. So it's like we have to start being honest about where we're falling short and stop hanging these ideologically progressive ideals over people's heads and voters' heads and donors' heads. Like, if you donate to me, I'll codify Roe v. Wade. If you vote for me, so we have to start being honest about that and being honest about where we're falling short and really being concerned about delivery and less about fear and rhetoric.
I agree. Should the filibuster end?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Like you can't get rid of continuing resolutions in the House if you're not going to get rid of filibusters in the Senate, right? These are all antiquated models under a different brand of politics. And so if our democracy doesn't move with the times, and okay, let me not lose that thought. If democracy doesn't move with the times, then we'll never be able to achieve anything of meaningful progress, like we won't. Because if you have a minority being able to stagnate and cut people off at the knees in the Senate, doesn't matter what happens in the House. You know what I mean? So I'm not a senator though, but from the House side, continuing resolutions is the biggest to me, regardless of majority or minority. That's the biggest barrier to progression. And in the Senate, it's the filibuster. So they both have to go. It's not like they've been there the whole time. We had a government that functioned just fine without them. Before the continuing resolution, they would just fund the budget at last year's levels until they could figure that joint out. But now they can use it as like leverage. Like, well, if you don't give me this funding, then I'm going to close the government down. Like, we're going to hit our. So it's tired. It's lazy. It's kind of like the person who works on a group project and then comes in 2 days before it's due and is like, oh, I can add the citations. Like, that's what these aspects feel like to me. We've all been on group projects where people played in our face. So that's what it feels like to me.
Should Congress have term limits?
Yes and no. And let me explain why I say yes and no. We have a problem with succession planning, right? And I don't mean like ideological succession planning. I mean mantle carrying succession planning, like in terms of broader strategies, because it takes policy so long and the House goes through all these ebbs and flows of minority and majority. You do need a certain amount of time to either build the coalition you need to carry it over the line, right? Throughout various administrations. And so until we can like really hone in on what that looks like, that preservation of progressive, because a lot of shit dies because the person is no longer in there and the person that comes in the seat behind them doesn't have the same attachment to it. Like, to me, this is a small tangent. The most prolific legislator we have in our lifetime is Lauren Underwood. The shit that she has been able to accomplish, like, she should be the face of the party, not Hakeem Jeffries. You know what I mean? Like, she reopened the government, right? Like, she's been able to get funding for Black maternal mortality research through NIH Improve. They were able to get the veteran mom maternal mortality passed through defensive spending. Like, that's a creative little shorty. Like, she gonna make some shit shake out the tree, right? So you don't really want to lose people who do stuff like that, right? But you do want to build a system in place where you have priorities either specific to the district that have to be maintained, or priorities tethered to the zeitgeist at that time, because the issues that we have in 2026, I mean, I have them in 2036. So I do support term limits, but I also support uncapping the House. I do think that we need to add a few more bodies into that room and the Supreme Court. So I think that there are a lot of pathways to like really designing a democracy that moves with society, right? Like that moves with what we're trying to do. And there was this Nobel Peace, Nobel, there was a Nobel Prize in economics, and they determined that when institutions actually benefit people, you have a better, well-rounded society because people are more willing to participate in democracy. So if you have a healthy, stable economy for them, then you're going to have lower crime. You're going to have, lower scams, right? Because people feel there's a pathway to sustainability. But if you have people working 2, 3 jobs, and diapers expensive as hell, gas is high as hell, what does joy look like in that space? Sleep, right? Depression or poverty has the same impact on the brain as depression, right? One ticket when you only have $60 in your bank account could send you over the edge. Other cultures, they commit suicide at very high rates whenever they're in financial stress. Like right now in Prince George's County, our homicide rates are some of the lowest they've been in a very long time. Our carjackings are some of the very lowest rates that they've ever had at this time. But you know what's risen? Domestic violence, right? So it's like when you have all of these systems that are failing people simultaneously, we can't talk about democracy reform without talking about the cost to the community.
We're gonna get into that domestic violence, but one question before that: what are why are younger voters frustrated right now?
I think younger voters are frustrated because a lot of the engagement tactics towards them feel manufactured and canned. And we grew up in a time when our lives, we could be in the club, sweat out our edges, take off our shoes and walk to the car barefoot and nobody would ever see it, right? We got to live in a space of a different level of authenticity. And today, with the rise of reality TV and content creation, authenticity can be very muddy for people. Like I even went through a phase in my life where I'm like, dang, everybody got Louis bags and Chanel bags. They got it's like, I don't have it, and you start to confuse manufactured content with reality. And so a lot of politicians are mimicking, that style of communication. Testing is actually really sometimes it's AI. Yeah. And so I think that's what it is. It isn't like genuine. It doesn't feel like, it feels like someone wrote a script for them and they're performing, and they can see through that because all they see are performances all day, right? That they're inundated with scripted content and like, I'm going to run down everything TikTok shot me and I'll tell you what I like and what I don't like. You know what I mean? Like they have a better grasp to a certain extent on what's real and what's not. It's kind of like when our grandmothers and our mothers don't know what's AI and what's not AI. Like my mom texted me, was like, Shavonne, is that you in that picture? She's like, I can't tell. And I was like, I think she's like, is there a filter on it? I was like, I think so, Mom. I think there's a filter on it, right? So I think, they can see things differently than we can, right? So I think that's what they don't want to, they don't want someone to be packaged to them. They want to believe in what this person is saying from start to finish. And they haven't really been getting that. But I also think there's this massive wave of misinformation. There's this massive wave of attempts at diluting the truth for clicks. And because people get their information in such small sound bites, it convolutes their ability to wade through the bullshit pretty much, right? So I think they just opt out altogether. But I will say when I'm speaking to younger people, they're like, oh, like you're a real person. I'm like, yeah, I'm just a girl. Like I have a script, you know what I mean? I'm just outside. It's too instant. Some of us tried to create this life that we didn't know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That we did not have. It's damaging, but I think I didn't live a life like my mother. My mother had like 6 siblings. She never had a bathroom to herself. I remember one time she visited me in Atlanta. She's like, wow, you have a bathroom to yourself? I was like, yeah. And so it's like we all live different lives from our parents, right? My mother was born in '66, so she's right on the tail end, of the Civil Rights Act. So she was the first person to kind of lived through freedom. Please see the air quotes, right? I think I wouldn't, if I ever have kids, I would never know that what their social structure is like, because I didn't grow up with cameras in my face. I didn't grow up with filters. I didn't grow up with, if you had a bad hair day, you had a bad hair day. I had an Amish boy cut one time, and I thought I was doing it, but realistically, I mean, it was clean. It was clean, but I mean, I couldn't get away with that today. You know what I mean? Like, they'd probably drag me in the comments. So it's just like, there's a different layer of society, or the public sphere. I like to say, as a historian, there's a different public sphere with every generation, and so we'll never understand all of the trappings. But I think that the youth, because they see that they can engage with people more, they're a little more hopeful that I can hold you accountable. I can hold you to task because you're talking to me on threads. So, oh, oh, thank you. Yeah. I have more faith than not, right? I do believe that we can rebuild trust in that generation. It does take some uncomfortable conversations, but I do think that is possible.
Got it. We're almost done. I'm sorry to
No.
string you along. I know. The DMV region has recently been reminded how seriously domestic violence is. What broader lessons should society take? It's a two-part question, and if you need me to repeat it, don't just let me know. And what do people misunderstand about domestic violence?
I'm trying to think, what hat am I going to wear when I answer this question?
Mm-hmm.
I think the foundation of it is obviously the toxic patriarchy, right? We have to understand that a lot of people believe that proximity to whiteness/power is all that they need to thrive. And whenever that power is threatened in whatever ecosystem they've defined for themselves that fits into that bucket, they lash out. Because, like, we all know that the most dangerous time for a woman in a domestic violence situation is when she's leaving, right? Which means that control that person has designed over their lives is no longer there.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Let me give a little more context to what I'm referencing when I say in the
Dr.
DMV.
Cecilia.
It's the what's
Is
the
it
gentleman?
Cecilia? I don't know his name, but I know her name.
Yes.
I don't need to know his name. Yeah, I don't need to know his name. I think it's Dr. Cecilia. She was a dentist. I know his name, but I don't want to say. I don't want to get him.
Governor of Virginia. That's
yeah. But she was leaving, right?
Yeah.
She funded his political career. She propped him up, right? She gave him that opportunity, right? And because he felt that he was owed proximity to her and her successes, the minute she wanted to take that away from him, he thought that he would take her life from her because she was removing herself. So no, I'm very aware. I'm very familiar with it. There's a long list of Black women and brown women who've lost their lives, and white women as well, but who've lost their lives to violence. But whenever there are significant economic downturns, whenever there's significant economic instability, domestic violence always rises up. There's always an increase in it. But secondary to that, one moment, what are we talking about?
We're talking about the gentleman.
He so there was a murder-suicide. Can I say that?
Yes, yeah, you can say it. Yeah, go ahead.
There was a murder-suicide in Virginia where this politically adjacent man who was previously accused of sexual assault murdered his soon-to-be ex-wife and then killed himself with the children in the house. And so it brought up a lot of conversations around the patriarchy and how a lot of his fraternity brothers were speaking about him as though his behavior or about the life that he lived and how they knew him and how nice he was, and with no mention of her, no mention of the children, and the trauma that they have to endure. And it brought up this conversation around mental health. But mental health is very important to me. I've grown up around I've grown up very intimately around mental health challenges across generations. And so I understand the challenges with mental health and the barriers to receiving care. So I do think mental health has a space in this conversation. I don't think the space is now. I don't think the space is while a family is grieving. I mean, we just saw in Shreveport, Louisiana, another man shot his girlfriend when she tried to leave, her sister, I believe her mother, and four of their kids, and as well as the sister's kids, right? So it's the largest mass shooting, I think, of this scale in quite some time. So the question for me will never be about the perspective for me will never be about the murderer. It will always be about the tragedy. And outside of that, we do need to strengthen our mental health infrastructure. A lot of times in the Black community, mental health is not something that you really get a chance to talk about, right? And I've struggled with depression. And so, being able to tell my family, don't do that. Don't tell our business to nobody. We better go to church. But over the years that's changed, right? My family's much more open, and a lot of people are much more open. But I think we have to create the opportunity for it. And right now, our healthcare system doesn't really create the opportunity for it. Therapists don't get paid correctly, reimbursables from the medical insurances, right? So when you have therapists in this space, they're sacrificing their comfort and their stability to be these guardrails of safety for the community. But I think overall, with the rise in domestic violence in the DMV area, the question is, the foundation is obviously toxic masculinity and its adjacency to patriarchy and ego and control as they're defining it. Secondary to that is economic instability and it driving more of those instances, not saying that's what happened in that particular case. And then thirdly, we have a fractured and broken mental health system. So they all have to be addressed. But if respectfully, if men and Black men can't reconcile with how harmful these conversations are around, oh, he was a really good friend to me, I don't give a damn. That man murdered his wife in front of their children. And he unplugged their Wi-Fi. He set a trap for her. That's calculation, right? And mental illness is a part of the conversation. But sometimes people are just disgusting, right? Sometimes people are just diabolical. And we can't use the shield of mental health for every misdeed that goes on in our community because we're doing a disservice to the people who are actually navigating mental health challenges with limited resources. So I grieve with her family. I grieve with her children, right? I ain't seen one GoFundMe from none of them bros. You know what I mean? How are we shielding and protecting those children from the trauma of knowing that they will never have either parent again? Knowing that their mother was trying to do right and leave him, and he decided that that was no longer her choice. So I think, conversations, I don't deal in absolutes and I don't deal in binary thinking. I feel like that we do ourselves a disservice. I think there are multiple competing priorities in this space. But we do have to unpack patriarchy the same way that we ask white people to unpack white supremacy. We also have to ask men to understand their role and how they're complicit in allowing people to run unchecked in some of these spaces. Because a lot of the men, it was very competing. Some people were like, this is crazy. F him. This is disgusting. And some people are like, oh, but he was really nice to me in 2022. So it's we have to start being honest. And I'm going to take it a step further. Because we do this with musicians. We like to separate artists from from their art. And there at some point it becomes too egregious, right? R. Kelly, too egregious. Chris Brown, too egregious. P. Diddy, too egregious. Harvey Weinstein, too egregious. And there's an onus that we have to take upon ourselves to remove their stability, which is stop listening to their music. Whatever they produce, we gotta let it die. You know what I mean? So it's persistent across society. The excuse of Chris Brown, he was young. No, he was 19, but he wasn't young when he stalked Karrueche and sent her death threats. He wasn't young when he threw that chair through that window in that dressing room on Good Morning America. He wasn't young when he threw that brick through his mama's car. He wasn't young when he threw that bottle at that party and was blinded to basketball. You know what I mean? Like, so we have to start being very, we have to start speaking. We have to start speaking about things in totality, right? We have to start being honest about what we're trading off when we allow things like this to slide, because people will allow it to exist and to, well, I can get grace somewhere. Somebody gonna forgive me, you know. Somebody somewhere gonna support me. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on
Look,
this.
I'm not promoting it on Grayson Politics Live, but not a shameless plug, but him and Usher are going on tour, and you see the $1,000 VIP tickets that they have and stuff like that. And women still,
I mean, I think there's a cognitive dissonance.
and men too. Men too. I'm not gonna hold it to. They still go out and buy the, to take these pictures with these people who have,
I think acceptance is a hell of a thing, right? Validation is a hell of a thing, and like I have friends that are going. I don't judge anybody for where they find their joy. Like, you know, those are just my personal things. Like I don't believe in branching out my perspectives into other people because I exist here. Like, you know, I haven't shopped at Walmart since 2011, right? Once I found out that, I mean, I've been there like once or twice. Let me not gas it, but like I don't go there for like day to day. Like if there's something I have to absolutely positively get, and like it's not a Target. Well, I don't shop at Target anymore, but you know, like if I can't get it anywhere else, I do. I have run into Walmart, but I haven't shopped there since I realized they don't pay their employees a living wage. So I'm helping to supplement them because you're too greedy to take care of them the way they need to be taken care of. Ain't shit, ain't nothing cheap, huh?
Costco does.
I be burning down Costco. I be burning down Costco, baby. I be burning down Costco because the Costco in Glenarden, they don't sell any, you know, alcohol liquor. So I go to the one in DC.
Oh, okay, got you.
But you know, I try to be as accountable to myself as, you know, I would like others to be. But if you can't pay your workers a living wage and they have to be on SNAP and WIC and have, you know, inroads to close those gaps that you're not closing for them, you don't need no more money from me. You don't need no more money from me. Right. So, you know, we all have our heels that we die on, right? Like I don't shop I don't go to Starbucks. I don't go to Walmart. I haven't been to Target, you know, since that shit happened. I think the only painful thing for me that I've had to really give up was Kanye. I was a huge, you know, college dropout hit in Atlanta. He was touring in the AUC, you know what I mean? Like he was getting out the mud. So it's such a formative part of my my college experience. So I think that's the only, but I think we all have our own value systems. But when you let things like that run unchecked, this is the casualty of it. This is a casualty of it.
Got it. I love that. Where is my? Oh, here we go. So that means we're gonna go to a quick commercial. We're gonna play a little game afterwards. And what? Oh, you see a comment or something?
Yeah, New York joint is crazy. Sounds like you know where the parking lot parking because the New York Avenue joint is crazy. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, they don't have no service in the parking lot, so you got to know what you're getting before you get in there because nothing work over there. That's a dead zone. But yeah. I meant to say that you know that parking lot's where you know. Oh, yeah. I park on the cuspy side, so I have a very small car, so I can kind of fit in and dip out anywhere. But yeah, I have a system to get in and get out for sure.
From what I remember, before we go to a little break, is when I used to live travel back and forth in Riverdale. In my former, I was married and divorced, and one thing I never saw, and I saw it in Riverdale in Prince George's County, is a drive-through liquor store.
Liquor store? Yeah. Yeah, there's one by me. There's one by me. Because whenever I do like events for my friends, I always like to give gifts. So I have friends that like tequila, so I get like little mini bottles of Patron, or um, I'll get like mini bottles of vodka or whatever they like, and I put them in like a bag, and um, so yeah, there's one by me. So whenever I'm running late, I'll just swing by there, grab the thingies, and go out the way. I mean, I think everything is fine in moderation. I think people get too,
Correct.
aggressive about what you should and shouldn't do, and policing what other people do with their money and their time and their bodies. So, but yeah, it's needed sometimes. Somebody want to get out the car all the time. It's really either you're getting gas or you got to park over there so you can actually get out with groceries. Yeah, you can't be over there where the gas at. Like you have to be on the back end of the Costco so you can ride the back of the parking lot all the way around. You got to cut through some people respectfully, and then you got to come out that way. Like you don't even bother with this part over here. Like don't touch that. It's only this back part that it's a strategy. It's a strategy. It's kind of like getting concert tickets to Beyonce. Like you gotta plan. You gotta have something in place.
So we're gonna take a quick break. Just gonna play a quick commercial, just promotional commercial for Racing Media, and then we're gonna play a game right after, and then wrap up. Hold on one moment.
You're watching a Grayson Media production. Thank you for watching. I'm Grayson. We'll be right back. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to the content. We'll be right back.
Grayson Politics Live, I'm Grayson. Please support the show via the Cash App and Zelle handles and by liking, following, and subscribing. And catch us every Monday at 7:30 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook. Grayson out. Grayson Politics Live, I'm Grayson. Please support the show via the Cash App and Zelle handles and by liking, following, and subscribing. And catch us every Monday at 7:30 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook. Grayson out. Grayson Politics Live, I'm Grayson. Please support the show via the Cash App and Zelle handles and by liking, following, and subscribing. And catch us every Monday at 7:30 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook. Grayson out. Grayson Politics Live, I'm Grayson. Please support the show via the Cash App and Zelle handles and by liking, following, and subscribing. And catch us every Monday at 7:30 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook. Grayson out.
Okay, are we back? We are. No, you good. You good. You good. We are
I've
back.
been sitting outside the door for an hour. Sorry.
I'm sorry. No, you good.
That's okay.
You are good. You are good. What was I saying? Oh, last but not least,
Hmm.
so we like to play a little interactive games um, where constituents can get to know you as a person, um, and so it's like a rapid fire type game. 10 questions.
Okay.
Um, so favorite restaurants in Prince George's County.
Favorite restaurants and Flaming Cones. They have really good pizza.
Favorite Maryland food item.
Crab. Obey.
Favorite place to relax in your district you're running in.
Mm. This is gonna sound kind of crazy, but there's a barbecue spot in Riverdale called 250 Barbecue, and their food is elite. Like, I mean, I would drop a bag in there. But they have a really cute like outside sitting area, and I like to sit there because it's like on a corner, but it's like very quiet. It's like nestled into a neighborhood, so it feels very like home.
I'll be sure to look into that next time I come in that area. Uh, uh, well, you already basically answered this question, but I'll ask it. No, you didn't. Favorite food item? Yep. Favorite place to relax. Favorite local small business.
Not you tying my hands like that. Um,
Small businesses.
okay, small businesses. So I've lost like 40 pounds since running for office. So yeah, so I've had to get some of my clothes tailored. So the dry cleaner up the street for me, she always takes care of me. She always like I can be like, hey, I'm sorry, I need it in 2 days. She's like, all right, like so her for sure. Um, then Flaming Cones, they were one of the first small businesses to support me. They catered the food to my campaign kickoff. Um, Zell's Kitchen and Lounge, they have like karaoke, and I think I can sing, but I can't. So they have that really good atmosphere there. Her Flex Fitness, it's a Black woman-owned gym. They have a location in Hydesville, and they have a location in um, there's a location in Forestville. So I would say rapid fire. Those are some of my favorites.
Got it. The crab cake or wings?
So now my Maryland side and my Atlanta side are competing. Y'all gonna kill me. I gotta say wings.
Got it.
Fried hard, yeah.
Favorite Maryland tradition?
Ooh. I would have to say eating crabs on a newspaper in the backyard in the summer. The first time I ever did it, I embarrassed my Maryland friends, so I had to like up my game. But there's something so uh, warm about it, right? There's something so vulnerable about learning something new, and in a group of people and them teasing you, and it's every time you learn something different about how to open the crab. So I would say that's my favorite tradition.
Got it. Favorite metro stop or area landmark?
In Maryland,
Yes.
it's like 15 stations from there.
No.
Okay. I
I used to catch the metro.
I'm kind of biased, but I'm going to say New Carrollton because it's the end of the line,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, Metro has changed their service, so it's a little more frequent. So if you miss one, you're kind of okay, and you can catch the Amtrak and the Mark from New Carrollton. So like sometimes when I go to Baltimore and I don't feel like driving, I can just hop on the Amtrak.
Got it. If you had one free day in the district, where would you go?
In the district, one free day.
No campaigning, no.
I had to go to sleep, but if I had to go, shit, I'd sleep. In the like District 4.
District 4, yes.
Oh, I'd go walk around the Northwest FedEx whatever field. It's a really great when it's a nice day, like a day like today. It's a great place to get exercise, and it's even though there's a lot of traffic, it's still very like peaceful. It's easier to center yourself there.
Got it. What makes Prince George's County special?
The people, the legacy, right? I think.
And one
I
word.
think older than that, yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
no.
No, it's like I think honoring the people and the legacy is important. What makes it special?
One word you would want constituents to associate with Shavonne Hedgepeth.
Relentless.
Yes. Why should voters choose you in the primary in the general election?
Because my only commitment is to maximizing the impact of their day-to-day lives and then safeguarding them from any future uh, attempts to derail them. Like I have no other desire other than those.
And what is your message to undecided voters tonight?
Well, if you are unaffiliated, you can't vote in the primary anyway. So I think whatever it looks like for you to make a decision, engage in myself or the other candidates in the race to see where you can find the best alignment. And perfection is not the goal, but the ability to work with someone to get what you need is the goal. And we're all pretty accessible. So I think if you're undecided, talk to us about why you are. Talk to me about why you are. And so we can have an actual conversation. Flats. Flats.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
And where can people donate to your campaign?
That's a beautiful question. Because my check I've been swiping this card. So my name is long, and Shavonne for Congress was taken. So vote Shavonne, spelled out for Congress.com. That's where you can donate. The link is in my bio. I did try to make it a little easy for y'all. But I appreciate any donation. I want people to understand that when you're grassroots, you're not looking for $3,000, $2,000. You're looking for $4. Like I have my lowest entry point at $4.44, right? Because I'm grateful for anything that you can give. I had $10 in my account and I gave Donna Edwards $3.33 back in the day, so I don't want people to feel like they can't support. And if you can't donate, that's totally fine. Tell a friend, right? Repost a video, like and share. Like there's so many ways you can support a campaign that isn't just limited to money.
I agree. Where can supporters volunteer? Same place?
Same place. I actually have a cleanup event this Sunday. Hopefully it doesn't rain. It's on the forecast. But the small business owner, the dry cleaner, her business is situated behind a Popeye, so it's a lot of litter. And there's like illegally dumped tires in her back lot. So we're going to get some volunteers together to clean that up. So that link is in my bio. I have a few more volunteer opportunities coming down the pipeline. I have a bestie bingo. I'm not going to give all the details away, but I have a bestie bingo coming up. You can volunteer for that. I have a couple of forums and town halls coming up. So, I'll need assistance, collecting people's information there. So those are some really fun ways to volunteer, and you can sign up on the website.
Got it. Well, Shavonne, we want to thank you for coming on and joining us on Grayson Politics Live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Stay on the back end real quick. We'll talk privately real quick.
Mm-hmm.
But we appreciate your time, your vision, and your willingness to engage directly with the people. To the viewers, stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll see you next week, Mondays, or on 7:30 live on Facebook and YouTube. Grayson out.
Thanks, Amazon Mom. Bye.
Thank you for watching Grayson Media, a Grayson Media Inc. production. We'll see you on the next show. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. Grayson out.